one who sent him. Anyhow, this is the fifth angle, or the fifth reason, fifth evidence. The sixth place in Al-Fatiha, which indicates the sending of messengers, min qawlihi ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, guide us to the straight path. So then he goes on to explain al-hidayah. He goes on to explain the two types of al-hidayah that you're familiar with. Hiya al-bayan wal-dilala, thumma at-tawfiq wal-ilham. So guidance is either explaining the truth and pointing out the truth, al-bayan wal-dilala, thumma at-tawfiq wal-ilham. And then after that it is Allah granting success and inspiring you as to your guidance. And this only comes after the first one, after the path has been made clear by explanation and elucidation. And then he says, وَلَا سَبِيلَ إِلَى الْبَيَانِ وَالدِّلَالَةِ إِلَّا مِنْ جِهَةِ الرُّسُلِ. And obviously there is no way to get the explanation and the elucidation of the path that we are seeking guidance to, except by way of the messengers. So therefore, once we acquire this knowledge of this path and elucidation of the path, then there results from it the second type of guidance, which is the guidance of tawfiq, which is when Allah gives you success in acting upon the path. Not just knowing the path, but acting upon the path as well. So he puts iman in the heart, and then he makes iman beloved to the heart, and then he beautifies it in the heart, and then he makes that to have an effect upon that person, so that he's pleased with it, and then he aspires to that worship. So, in other words, in Al-Fatiha, there are two types of guidance that are being alluded to when we say ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. There is the first type of guidance, which is just to have the path explained to us. Right? This is haqq, this is batil, this is huda, this is dalal, this is halal, this is haram, this is wajib, this is, all these things, this is elucidation of the path. Right? This is the affairs of the unseen, this is paradise, this is hellfire, this is elucidation of the path. And then the second part is now it being put in your heart, and that you aspiring to want to follow the path and actually acting upon that. This now is the second level of guidance. And both of these are included when we say ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. So of these two types of guidance, which of the two is the evidence for the messengers? The first or the second one? It's got to be the first one, because the second one is only from Allah. Second one is Allah only gives guidance to the hearts. The first one is what the messengers do, because they make bayan and they make explanation of the path. So he says these two types of guidance mas'ulatan, these are the two guidances which are asked, and success cannot be attained except by way of them both. And these types of guidance, he then goes on to make a point. I'll quickly summarize it. Basically, he says that if we are already guided, if we are already on the path, we are Muslim, we are people of Tawheed, we are people of the Sunnah, then how can someone say ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim if you're already on the path? And Ibn al-Qayyim answers this by saying that this question is false. إذا كنا محتدين فكيف نسأل الهداية? If we are already guided, how can we ask for guidance? He then explains why we need to ask for guidance. So he says, فإن المجهول لنا من الحق أضعاف المعدوم أضعاف المعلوم. He says, indeed, that which we do not know of the truth is multiple times more that which we do know. Right? So if you ask yourself, from all of the ilm that Allah revealed and all of the sciences, how much of that do I actually have knowledge of? And you'll find that it's a tiny fraction, a tiny amount compared to what you don't know. Right? So straight away you are missing a huge part of the guidance of al-bayan wad-dilala. You're missing that straight away, right? So now that part that you do have, the part that you do have knowledge of, that you have knowledge of. He says, وَمَا لَا نُرِيدُ فعله تحاونا وكسلا مثل ما نريده أو أكثر منه أو دونه. So then he says, so if you take that bit of knowledge which you do have, which is only a fraction of the sum whole of knowledge of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then from that knowledge, how much of it do you actually have the desire to act upon? Right? And that you don't act upon out of laziness or neglect. Like, what's the ratio? Is it half-half? So half of the knowledge that you actually have, you have the desire to act upon it? Or is it less than that, right? So each person answer himself. Like, of all the knowledge you hold in your head, or in your heart or your head, of all the things that you know, of the halal and the haram and the, that which is mustahab, that which is wajib, of all of the acts of the ibadat and all of the mu'amalat, things that you actually know, you have knowledge of, that this is what Allah desires and pleases Him, and how much of that do you actually have the irada to actually act upon? Is it half of it? Is it most of it? Is it the small part of it? Each person knows his own reality, right? So meaning this is just having the irada to act upon what you actually know, right? So from all of knowledge, you have a tiny fraction. From that fraction of knowledge, how much of it do you actually have the irada to act upon in the first place, right? So that will be, let's say, another fraction, right? Another fraction. So of all the knowledge, you only have the irada to act upon just a fraction of that. Then, from that small fraction, he says, وَمَا لَا نَقْدِرُ عَلَيْهِ مِمَّا نُرِيدُهُ كَذَلِكَ. So it doesn't mean that just because we have the irada to act upon that fraction of knowledge that we have, that we actually have the qudra to do so, the ability to do so, right? And sometimes, you sit there and you think, I want to do this, I want to pray nawafil, I want to do umrah, I want to give charity. Like, this irada comes and enters into the mind and heart of a person. But do you actually have the qudra to do so? Do you have the ability or the means to do so? Maybe not. So now when we look at the issue of qudra, we find that now is another fraction of that fraction of the other fraction. And then he says, وَمَا نَعْرِفُ جُمْلَتَهُ وَلَا نَحْتَدِي لِتَفَاصِيلِهِ فَأَمْرٌ يَفُوتُ الْحَسَرِ. Right, so now there's other affairs, like maybe some things we know in general, but we don't know all the details. So now we are in need of the details of that issue. Right? It could be a matter of belief, it could be a matter of the rulings, it could be something that we know general things, but we don't know all the specific details. Take, for example, wudu or prayer, for example. There are many details of the prayer that many people don't know. So we need to have those tafasil. So he says, فَأَمْرٌ يَفُوتُ الْحَسَرِ. So meaning that if we think of it in this way, then it's not possible to comprehend this affair. وَنَحْنُ مُحْتَاجُونَ إِلَى الْهِدَايَةِ التَّامَّةِ فَمَنْ كَمَلَتْ لَهُ هَذِهِ الْأُمُورِ كَانَ سُؤَالُ الْهِدَايَةِ لَهُ سُؤَالُ التَّثْبِيتِ وَالدَّوَامِ. So for most people, they are in need of perfect guidance. And if there's anyone who has perfected these affairs, then when he asks for hidayah, then hidayah is from the angle of tathbeet, keeping me firm upon the truth and upon the truth. Now we'll finish, inshallah ta'ala. Right, so far, what is Ibn al-Qayyim mentioned? There are two levels of guidance, right? What is the first level? Al-Bayan wa Dilala. Right, this is the evidence for the sending of messengers, that we need elucidation of the path. Right, the second part of it is actual guidance in acting upon the path. We are in need of guidance of both these things. Why? Because we don't know all the truth, firstly. And secondly, we don't have the irada to act upon what we know. And if we do, we don't have the qudra to act upon it, even though we have the irada. So in the al-bayan wa dilala, we need guidance from Allah to fill the details and the gaps in our knowledge. And in this, we need guidance from Allah to give us tawfiq, to actually have the irada to act in the first place for the knowledge that we have, and then to have the qudra as well, right? But then there's a third level of guidance. There's another type of guidance that mankind is in need of. And this is also, like indirectly, this is also evidence for the messengers in a way. But he goes on to explain, وَلِلْهِدَايَةِ مَرْتَبَةٌ أُخْرَى وَهِيَ آخِرُ مَرَاتِبِهَا. Guidance has yet another level, and it is the last of its levels. وَهِيَ الْهِدَايَةِ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ إِلَى طَرِيقِ الْجَنَّةِ وَهُوَ الصِّرَاطُ الْمُوصِلُ إِلَيْهَا. He says this guidance is the guidance on the Day of Judgment to the path, or on the path of paradise. And it is the path that leads to paradise. فَمَنْ هُدِيَ فِي هَذِهِ الدَّارِ إِلَى صِرَاطِ اللَّهِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ الَّذِي أَرْسَلَ بِهِ رَسُولَهُ وَأَنزَلَ بِهِ كِتَابَهُ هُدِيَ هُنَاكَ إِلَى الصِّرَاطِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ الْمُوصِلِ إِلَى جَنَّتِهِ وَدَارِ ثَوَابِهِ. Now look at how he connects the two types of guidance. He says, whoever is guided in the life of this world to the straight path of Allah, the one with which He sent His messengers and the one with which He revealed His books, he will be guided to that straight path which leads to his paradise and the abode of reward. And وَعَلَى قَدْرِ ثُبُوتِ قَدَمِهِ عَلَى هَذَا الصِّرَاطِ الَّذِي نَسَبَهُ اللَّهُ لِعِبَادِهِ فِي هَذِهِ الدَّارِ يكون ثبوت قدمه على الصراط المنسوب على متن جهنم. So he says, to the extent that a servant, his foot is firm upon this path which Allah has fixed for His servants in this world, to that same extent will be his feet or his foot on that path which is being fixed over the middle of hellfire. Right? So meaning, in other words, that you have an idea of how you will pass over the sirat, over hellfire, by analogizing for it, by looking in the life of this world, how are you on the path of Allah in the life of this world? It's like for like. So as you are on the path in the life of this world, in terms of ilm and amal, as we said, then that will be exactly the same as to what manner you will pass over that bridge, pass over the sirat, which is over hellfire in that life. Then he says, فَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَمُرُّ كَالْبَرْقِ. So therefore there will be some from the believers who will pass over that bridge, over hellfire, like the lightning, like a flash of lightning. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَمُرُّ كَالطَّرْفِ. And then among them who will pass like the blinking of an eye, right? Blinking of an eye. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَمُرُّ كَالرِّيحِ. And amongst them are those who will traverse it like the swift wind. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَمُرُّ كَشَدِّ الرِّكَابِ. Then some of them will traverse it like the speedy horseman, the really fast, horse. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَسْعَى سَعْيًا. Then there will be those who will be running swiftly. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَمُرُّ مَشْيًا. Those who will be simply be walking. وَمِنْهُمْ مَنْ يَحْبُو حَبْوًا. And amongst them will those who will be crawling. وَمِنْهُمُ الْمَخْدُوشِ الْمُسَلَّمِ. And amongst them are those who, as he's going over, he's being lacerated and by the hooks and things like this, but he will actually be saved, right? So as he moves, he's being with the hooks and everything, but he will eventually be saved at the end of it. وَمِنْهُمْ الْمُقَرْضَسِ فِي النَّارِ. Al-Muqardas, and amongst them is the one, Al-Muqardas is like, this is like the person where you grab his two hands and you grab his two legs together like this and you go like this. Right? This is Al-Muqardas. So among them is the one who will be taken and he will be thrown in the hellfire like that. Right? So now this is the third level of guidance. So depending on your guidance in the life of this world and how you traverse the path, it will be like for like how you traverse on that path. Now, he goes on to say, and we finish in a few minutes inshallah. فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْعَبْدِ سَيْرَهُ عَلَى ذَاكَ الصِّرَاطِ مِنْ سَيْرِهِ عَلى هَذَا حَذْوَ الْقُذَّةِ بِالْقُذَّةِ. So he says, let the servant look at him traversing over that path in light of him traversing on this path in this life. Take it like for like. Jaza'an wifaqa, a befitting recompense. And then he says, هَلْ تُجْزَوْنَ إِلَّا مَا كُنْتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ. Will you be recompensed except by that which you used to do? And then he says, وَلْيَنْظُرِ الشَّهَوَاتِ وَالشُّبُهَاتِ الَّتِي تُعَوِّقُهُ عَنْ سَيْرِهِ عَلَى هَذَا الصِّرَاطِ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ فَإِنَّهَا الْكَلَالِيبِ الَّتِي بِجَنْبَتَيْ ذَاقَ الصِّرَاطِ. So he says, so now let a servant look at the shubuhat and the shahawat, which divert him from the straight path in this life. Right? So in this life, what do we have that divert you from the path? It's the shubuhat, it is the doubts, the misconceptions, like in creed and belief. And so meaning what is with the kuffar of the doubts, what is with the mubtadi'ah, right, of the firq, what they have of the doubts. These are the shubuhat. And likewise, on the other side, there is the shahawat, the desires, the lusts, right? These are the two things that are pulling you this way and that way. In the hereafter, these two things become what? They become al-kalalib. These are the hooks on either side of the sirat across the hellfire. So he says, they will snatch him and they will turn him away from passing over the path. And so if they are strong and plentiful in this life, meaning that you are subject to shubuhat and shahawat, and your life is plagued with these things, then in the hereafter they will be likewise for you. So when you pass over the path, if you had a shubha in this life, shubha in belief, in creed, in iman, in qadr, in sifat, about the sahaba, about the ulama, about whatever it might be, they will be waiting for you hooks to the equivalent of your shubuhat. And if you have shahawat, lusts and desires that you followed, then there will be hooks likewise, like for like, waiting for you to snatch you, to lacerate you, to pull you off in the bridge over hellfire. وَمَا رَبُّكَ بِظَلَّامٍ لِلْعَبِيدِ. And so never is your Lord is never oppressive or unjust to his servants. فسؤال الهداية متضمن لحصول كل خير والسلامة من كل شر. So now we can understand why it is that we say اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, right? We are asking basically for every good and safety from every evil. So this is number 6. I'll quickly mention number 7, al-mawdi' as-sabi'. So number 6 was when we say ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim, we are asking guidance to the path. The messengers come, they elucidate, they explain the path, and there's no way for us to know that except by way of the messengers. This is a proof for the prophethood and messengership. The 7th is min ma'rifati nafsil mas'ul, right, which is wa huwa as-siratul mustaqim, right? Just knowledge of the path itself, the very thing we are asking for. We are asking for the straight path. And we know that the straight path, he says, وَلَا تَكُونَ الطَّرِيقِ سِرَاطًا حَتَّى تَتَدَمَّنْ خَمْسَةَ أُمُورٍ. No path can be straight unless it has 5 things. It has al-istiqamah. It has to be straight like this. Secondly, wal-isal ila al-maqsood. It has to make you reach the destination, right? So if a path is straight, it necessitates it's going to lead you to the destination. Wal-qurb, right? So if the path is straight, then this is the closest route to where you want to get to. So that's why the path being straight necessitates the next 2. The path is straight, which means it will get you to the destination, and it's the closest it can ever be because it's straight directly to the destination. وَسَعَتُهُ لِلْمَارِينَ عَلَيْهِ. It has to be vast and broad enough for all the people to pass over it. Right? And the straight path of Allah is open for everybody. And وَتَعِيُّنُهُ طَرِيقًا لِلْمَقْصُودِ. It has to be designated as the path that leads you to the destination. And that is found in Al-Fatiha. Why? Because Allah Azza wa Jal said, صِرَاطَ الَّذِينَ أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ غَيْرِ الْمَغْضُوبِ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا الضَّالِينَ. Right? So he clarified the path, that this is the path that leads you, not the path of the astray, not the path of those upon whom is Allah's wrath. So all of these descriptions are found for this straight path of Allah. This is indirectly a proof for the prophethood and the messengership. I think, inshallah, we can probably stop at that point. Inshallah ta'ala. We'll leave the last one, number 8, for the next time that we meet, inshallah ta'ala. So just to conclude then today, we looked at the Muqaddimah of Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah. In the Muqaddimah, he made it clear what the objective of his book is, of his writing is. It is to extract from Al-Fatiha all of the lofty pursuits, lofty objectives that a servant pursues in the life of this world in terms of knowledge, to extract them from Al-Fatiha and to lay down the foundations of all the things that will come after, by way of which we can be travelers on the path to Allah in the right way. Right? So we know what is meant by al-haqiqah. It is to have knowledge of Allah, of His names, of His attributes, of His actions in the right way, upon the way of the Salaf. It is to know the tariqah, right? The actual way that we reach Allah, not the way of the Sufis. And it is al-dhawq. How do we get intuition? There is intuition, like as we will see later. There are ways in which Allah directs you and guides your intuition to that which is correct. But is it like in the way of the Sufis? Or is there something else by which you can develop this intuition of always being guided to that which is correct? And there is. It is being truthful, having sidq. We shall look at this inshallah later. Right? So this is al-dhawq. And likewise al-mawajid, like meaning because obviously people of the truth have to feel pleasure from the worship that they do. And they have to feel ecstasy. And they have to feel, these things inside from the sound, valid types of worship that they perform upon a way other than the way of the Sufis. Because what the Sufis fall into, this is, the shayateen enter upon them, and it's just like a type of ecstasy, it's like a type of ishq, it's like a type of love which is a tainted, corrupted, exaggerated type of love. Now we don't want that. We want the pure type of pleasure and ecstasy which is within the limits and the bounds of what is acceptable within the Sharia, other than what the Sufis claim and what they fall into. So he made that clear that this is the objective of the book in the Muqaddimah. Then we started looking at the lofty objectives taken from Al-Fatiha. And so this is just the start. There are many, many things, as we said, in the pages that proceed. So inshallah, we'll stop there for today, and we'll continue the next time Allah allows us to gather together again. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.